Hello, you guys. So, first and foremost, I want to say it is hellaciously hot. I am sitting in my car in the Alabama heat because sauna. So, I tend to do this somewhat regularly just because it's good to just take in the heat, honestly. And I live in a very hot climate, a very sunny climate. And so, I'm going to just sit here and sweat as I talk to you guys about my health update. So I figure I might as well kill two birds with one stone. I have some things to say. I can't really remember the last update I gave you guys, but we do have a lot to talk about today in terms of the health updates. So I will say first and foremost, my burn off is very, very high. So I'm probably going to call this video the Serotonin Storm 2.0. I had a really rough bout with high serotonin last summer. It was horrible, unbearable even. Like I couldn't function hardly at all. This year, it's really bad again. It's definitely less intense. Like I don't feel as private or as like I have to stay silent. Last time I felt so much shame and just so embarrassed to like be who I am, and like I felt so discouraged, which these are all like mental health side effects from the actual weight loss. And especially because in the summer and during the summer solstice, like we're in right now, it's very fast. So I'm very consistent when it comes to seasonality. I don't just say you just gain weight in the winter and then you don't lose in the summer. You do lose in the summer. As long as you're not overeating, you're going to lose. Period. You lose very easily, actually. My appetite is very low compared to the winter. I am pouring sweat, by the way. So we're going to embrace the sauna moment. If you are offended by sweat, then I don't know, I guess click off. But anyways, I have a lot of side effects from very high burn off right now. And essentially I get depressed. So especially at night, sometimes I get really, really depressed, and it's difficult to function at times. I'm not gonna lie. And I don't mean like it's difficult to function, oh my gosh, like I can't do anything. It's that the way that my life is right now, I'm doing like a whole ass Eras tour where it's like I have 2 jobs and the gym, and that's very difficult when I was like very, very, very sick to start with. Like I couldn't even work one job when I started my hypo recovery. So to be at a place where I'm working 2 and going to the gym, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's very, very difficult. And I'm hitting kind of a floor right now where I think my hormones and everything, they're probably the lowest or the worst that they're going to be ever again. Each solstice, I kind of have different like floors. I see like what's the lowest I'm gonna get. It's like I feel that way in the summer and then I feel that way in the winter. And I remember last winter it was easier. I didn't have as many issues. Like I could still continue to work my one job. I couldn't really do 2, so I couldn't really do YouTube at the same time, but I could really do a lot of the one. And then this summer it's like I can still do both jobs but not as easily, and still go to the gym. So it's like I can still function, but it is hard and I can't function perfectly. Like I found I can't do the scheduled videos. It's like I have to kind of do things kind of sporadically, and I'm going to have to adjust for that. So basically, if you want to know more about how I felt last year, I talked about it. There's a video from July of 2023 in my health playlist where I was talking about how hopelessly depressed I was. It was crazy. Like I would just stare at the ceiling and just feel like nothing was worth anything and there was no point in trying to do anything. Like I was so depressed. It was so intense when I was super morbidly obese. Today, it's not really like that. How it feels is it's like I can feel sad or very, very, very sad or hopeless at times, but it's typically about like an external issue. So it's like I will feel sad or anxious about my finances, or about my car, or about my romantic prospects, or that kind of thing. Like, that's kind of where it will come in. And it's just a lot less. Like, a year ago, it was like me. It was like about me as a person, and like everything about myself. Like, it was very harsh, you know, kind of like just feeling so much shame just for being who I am. That's how I felt last year. And I didn't know if it would end. And that was really difficult, to have this much burn off. And it's like, you know what, let me just run through a quick list of the symptoms. It's like, my sweat is very acidic, so it burns my armpits and my eyes. And it's like my urine is more acidic. I have, you know, last year I had a lot of trembling and like panic even at times, because the serotonin was just so powerful last year. It isn't like that this year. I don't really have panic or anything like that, but I do get into like, I can get triggered emotionally, which I'm going to talk about for sure in this video. But it's like, right now, like a lot of those things are back. Like, I feel like I do have hair fall off or fall out. I have the acidic sweat, you know, acidic tears, acidic urine. The rash is back in my armpits and stuff. I have, you know, twitching, serotonin hands, you know, restlessness, which I've had that pretty much all year in regard to the weight loss, but especially at the solstice time. So like in January, it was really bad. And it's bad again. You know, I feel like I'm on the verge of getting sick. Having exhaustion, having the hypoventilation really badly. I've had a really bad hypo cough. So all these things they've returned, and they're pretty tough, you know. And I would say that as a morbidly obese person versus a super morbidly obese person, the difference is kind of that it's just really hard at these solstice points. So it's very hard like in December or June. Before, it was hard all the time. So now I actually have quite a bit of leeway where I'm relatively okay. It was getting bad towards the end of May. It was starting to like wear on me, because I also have edema, like I'm swollen. Especially like, it's not terrible, but like if I look at my ankles and I push it in, it takes a second. Like it will fill back up. Like I'm very swollen too. So it's very powerful. And as I've said in previous videos, like when I did my last update where I was really, really emo, I literally I can't just continually eat more. What I did do is this past week, I had a day where I broke my deficit and almost all of my symptoms went away. Like literally, it was like, I think I was still a little bit depressed or a little bit moody or anxious, but it was about something emotional. And like the hypoventilation went away, like all of my weight loss symptoms went away, just getting out of a deficit. But the second I went back to the deficit, the next day, it all came back before 24 hours. So it's just, my metabolism is very fast right now. It's really, really pushing through and powering through, and I'm very active. That's another difference this year, is I'm super active still in June. And typically around June and December, when I was super morbidly obese, I wouldn't be able to work as much, or I'd have to like take a step back from everything because I couldn't function very well at all because I was so sick and so hypo. So this year, I will say, like, I've been very depressed towards the end of May and coming into June. It comes and goes though. Last year, it was very consistent. Like I would just stay depressed. And it was just like all the time. Like at this point, it's like it kind of flickers. It comes in and then it goes out, and then it comes in and then it goes out. And then I have like the same serotonin symptoms, you know, like the restlessness, the feeling like you want to jump out of your skin. I haven't had any nightmares or anything, thank God. I haven't had anything too crazy, but I do have the rosy cheeks a lot, and just a lot of the different signs, you know, the signs and wonders, if you will, that I'm losing a lot of weight. So I don't think I'm even going to know how much I've actually lost until the swelling goes down, which I think will probably happen around August. So I'm just going to let it go and see what happens. But what is different about this year in terms of Serotonin Storm 2.0 is essentially that it is not nearly as bad physically as it was a year ago. Last year, when I was super morbidly obese, the physical side was so loud and so powerful that it was literally the only thing I could think about because it was just so overwhelming. This year, it's a lot weaker. So essentially, what I'm finding at this point in the journey is that I have to be very wary of my emotions, because my emotions and feelings are equally powerful to the physical effects. So if I am triggered by something, it causes my body to flip out. But if I'm not triggered by something, my body calms down. And that's a really, really weird place to be, because for a lot of this weight loss journey, I've had to completely ignore my emotions in order to get through, because I couldn't trust that it was real and that it wasn't just like a hormonal thing. But I've found that certain things that occur now that do trigger me emotionally, they do elicit a physical response, because my body is so taxed in doing so much work and burning the fat and processing all the burn off and all the different effects of losing the weight. I don't have much to work with. And my energy levels are definitely way lower. My hormones are definitely not as great. And so if I get upset or triggered by something, I have a body response. That's when I feel like really, really adrenal, or like I will have a complete moment if I feel emotionally triggered. So for the first time in a very long time, in order to continue to move forward in my journey, I have to take care of my emotional health, which is really, really weird, because I had to basically like ignore it a lot. And as you guys know, I kind of talked about an emotional trigger in my last health update, where I was really triggered by two things. I was triggered by basically not being able to control a couple different aspects, but really my car, feeling out of control with my car, and my romantic life, feeling out of control in my romantic life. It's like I can't control how a guy responds, or I can't know what's going to happen, or like the spontaneity in romance. It's like I get triggered by that. And then same with the car. It's like if there's something wrong with the car and I can't afford to do something about it, that's like a trigger. So it's like I'm kind of doing more in my life. This isn't as much of a like boring doing nothing time as last year. And it's like I'm having to exist and go through emotional triggers and cope with them, because we're not always in control of life. Like I can't always control outcomes. You can't. It's not possible. It's not rational. But I think for me personally, that was a huge trigger towards my BED. And I don't have the BED anymore. So it's kind of like I'm in a difficult spot where I have to really focus on emotional health and take care of my emotional self, while at the same time coping with certain things that come up as a result of living life again, as a result of picking up and doing things again. That's really different, because my life was very like at a standstill through most of my, the last few years, and being so incredibly ill and all these different things. It's like when you're trying to, it's like the difference between dealing with a breakup and trying to start with somebody new, or trying to begin again, as Taylor would say. It's a really different feeling, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like I'm beginning again. And I've always said that losing weight is kind of like a breakup. And I feel like I'm at that point now where it's like I'm ready to move forward in a new way of living. And it's just scary. And when you do things in life, or you get stuff going, you can't control outcomes, or you can't control how things go. And I think for me, that was what I always wanted to do, was to control things, basically, and it doesn't work. So that's kind of what I talked about in the last video, and I've really just leaned into that more, and I'm just becoming more at peace and being okay, and just kind of like letting go and letting God, and just taking the steps each day, because I think like romantically and like with my car and just like certain things that are like very triggering to me, I would get so anxious about it that I would like avoid it or even sabotage it. Ooh. So sorry, my car was tripping, or my phone was tripping. So I would like try to sabotage it even just so that I could make sure I know what would happen.